Margaret Levinson had lived in the same weathered blue house for over 40 years. At 71, she had learned to live in silence, the kind that wrapped around the rooms like a blanket. It wasn't always this way. Her late husband Harold used to fill the halls with his humming and offbeat singing while he cooked breakfast on Sunday mornings. But ever since cancer took him 11 years ago, the house had settled into a kind of stillness that only deepened with time. The garden was her sanctuary now, a place where she could lose herself for hours among the petunias and tomatoes. She didn't speak to many people anymore, maybe a neighbor now and then, but she never felt quite alone when her fingers were in the dirt. One rainy Thursday in May, something changed. It was just after dawn, the sky still bruised with morning clouds. Margaret was sipping her tea, wrapped in a crocheted shawl that had seen better days, when the doorbell rang. She almost didn't answer it. Whoever came this early? But something about the sound made her pause. It wasn't rushed or urgent. It was patient. She opened the door and froze. Standing there was a young woman, no older than 30, holding a package and looking almost apologetic. "Hi," she said softly. I think I'm your granddaughter." Margaret blinked, her breath caught somewhere between the past and present. "My what?" The young woman's name was Ellie. She explained carefully, cautiously, that she had only recently learned about Margaret through her mother, Margaret's estranged daughter Caroline. Caroline had left home at 19 during a bitter fight, never to return, and for decades, Margaret had lived with the ache of not knowing where she went. "I found her old letters," Ellie said, "hidden in a box under her bed. She used to write to you, even if she never mailed them." Margaret stepped aside and let Ellie in. Her hands trembled as she poured more tea. They sat in the small kitchen with the squeaky chairs and faded curtains, and Margaret listened. Ellie spoke with reverence, with sorrow, with hope. She talked about Caroline's regrets, her own curiosity, and the way she had always wondered about the grandmother she'd never met. Over the next few weeks, Ellie returned every Thursday morning. They would garden together, bake old recipes, laugh at stories Margaret thought she'd long forgotten. Margaret found herself waking up early, brushing her hair with more care, setting out the good china again. One day, Ellie brought a photo album she had made. It was filled with printed pictures from their afternoons together. Margaret's hands in the soil, her eyes squinting from laughter, her feet in old rain boots. Margaret turned each page slowly, tears pricking her eyes. For the first time in years, she saw herself not as an old woman in a quiet house, but as someone still living, still becoming. The silence in the house had changed. It still lingered, but now it had a heartbeat. Ellie asked if she could bring her mother, Margaret's daughter. Margaret hesitated. The hurt ran deep. But time has a way of softening even the sharpest wounds. She finally agreed. The reunion was quiet. No grand apologies, no dramatic speeches. Just 3 women standing in the kitchen, passing around a bowl of strawberries, saying more in silence than words ever could. Margaret never thought she'd have a second chance at family. But sometimes, the unexpected knock at the door is not an intrusion. It's an invitation. To remember. To forgive. To begin again. And so, in a house once full of silence, Margaret found the courage to speak again. Not with words, but with open doors, warm tea, and long embraces.